When they reached the Akran's Valley area, they were suddenly chased by Holy Nation soldiers. Bone quickly moved forward, luring the soldiers away and drawing their attention from Bonebone and Softbone. A Holy Nation soldier was still chasing them. Bonebone and Softbone quickly turned and fought back. They managed to defeat him. In the distance, Bone was moving closer to regroup. They immediately ran westward toward Stoat. The Holy Nation soldiers shifted their pursuit toward Bonebone and Softbone. Bonebone's backpack was heavy with loot. He quickly dumped the items, removed his armor and stuffed it into the backpack to lighten his load. Now lighter, he could run much faster. They kept running, dodging the attacks from the Holy Nation soldiers. From afar, Bone spotted a pack of sleeping wolves. An idea suddenly came to him. He quickly lured the Holy Nation soldiers toward the wolf pack. Softbone followed right behind him. The moment the Holy Nation soldiers got close, the wolves woke up and attacked them. In the chaos, Bone and Softbone seized the opportunity and escaped. The danger still wasn't over. Bone saw a group of cannibals ahead. He moved slowly and carefully, hoping they wouldn't notice him. But then he saw Holy Nation soldiers in front of them. Luckily, the cannibals spotted the soldiers first and immediately attacked them. Bone and Softbone took the chance and ran away as fast as they could. Finally, Bone regrouped with Bonebone. They continued their journey together. In the middle of the dry Great Desert, they were chased by a group of bandits. These opponents were relatively weak. Bonebone launched an attack, and they easily defeated the bandits. While carrying the defeated bandits, they continued their journey toward Stoat. Upon arriving in Stoat, they headed straight to the slave market to sell the bandits. However, the transaction did not improve their relationship with the slave traders. Bone stopped at the ranger shop to restock his bolts. Once their preparations were complete, they continued their journey to the city of Heng. In Heng, they went straight to the Thieves' Guild. Bonebone handed his backpack and weapons to Bone, then took the trader's backpack instead. This type of backpack was perfect for stacking many identical items. They also swapped armor. All of this was because Bonebone planned to sneak into the bank and steal the valuable goods stored there. When Bonebone reached the bank, he quickly entered the storage area. The locked chests were easy for him to open. Valuable items quickly moved into his backpack. After taking everything worthwhile, he slipped out of the bank and headed to the general shop to sell the stolen goods. However, at the general shop, the chance of not getting caught selling stolen items was only 53%. That meant there was a high risk he could be caught red-handed. Bonebone changed his mind and left the shop to look for somewhere else. At the farm shop, the fencing chance was 110%, completely safe for selling stolen goods. Unfortunately, the shopkeeper didn't have much money, so he could only buy some of the items. Bonebone sold the rest at the robotics workshop and the mechanical shop. Bonebone decided it was time to try hunting bounties. He checked the wanted posters and found a target named Sand Ninja Oni, reportedly seen in the Great Desert area. The reward offered was quite large. Together with Beepbone and Softbone, he immediately set off westward. Bonebone hoped that Sand Ninja Oni wouldn't be too difficult to defeat. However, the Great Desert was a vast and dangerous place, often filled with skimmers ready to attack. Not long after, one skimmer charged at them. Bonebone and Softbone immediately fought back. It turned out the two of them had grown strong enough. They easily defeated the skimmer. In the hilly area ahead, they spotted a building that looked like it could be the Sand Ninja Oni's base. Bonebone and the others continued moving forward. In the middle of a raging sandstorm, Beepbone opened up about how he felt. With his robotic limb, he said he felt much stronger now and was no longer afraid of anyone. When they finally reached the Sand Ninja Oni's base, called Cactus Den, a fierce battle was already underway between the Sand Ninjas and a pack of skimmers. Among them, one ninja was fighting multiple skimmers at once. It was Sand Ninja Oni himself. Bonebone watched from a distance. Not long after Sand Ninja Oni fell, the skimmers left him behind. This was Bonebone's chance. He quickly approached, picked up the unconscious Sand Ninja Oni and ran toward Heft, with Beepbone and Softbone following close behind. Some of Sand Ninja Oni's subordinates approached. Bonebone braced himself for a fight, but to his surprise, they only wanted to treat their master's wounds. Bonebone also helped heal the ninjas' injuries. Since they were still deep in Sand Ninja territory, he didn't want to act recklessly. Once the subordinates finished treating Sand Ninja Oni, they began healing their own wounds. At that moment, Bonebone suddenly ran, leaving them behind. Realizing what had happened, the subordinates immediately gave chase and attacked Bonebone's group. Bonebone dodged their strikes and kept running. One by one, the subordinates eventually gave up and let their master be taken by Bonebone. They finally arrived in Heft and immediately headed to Tengu's palace. Bonebone wanted to present the bounty he had captured to Emperor Tengu as a sign of respect to the supreme leader of the United Cities. Beepbone and Softbone waited downstairs, while Bonebone went up to meet Emperor Tengu. What happened next was completely unexpected. Emperor Tengu didn't care about the bounty Bonebone brought. Instead, he gave Bonebone a new task, with one of the rewards being status. This was exactly what Bonebone wanted. He thought he could become one of the respected and feared nobles in the United Cities. He listened carefully to Emperor Tengu's explanation. Emperor Tengu handed Bonebone a small sack. Bonebone opened it and found only a few pieces of leftover green fruit inside. He looked confused. Suddenly, Emperor Tengu burst into loud laughter. The guards around him also shouted mocking words at Bonebone. It turned out the task Emperor Tengu gave him was nothing but a joke. Bonebone had become the laughing stock for everyone in the palace. With his blood boiling and filled with rage, Bonebone went back downstairs and sat with dbone. He stayed silent, trying hard to hold back the anger burning inside him. The United Cities was truly a barbaric nation. The political elite only cared about themselves. They didn't respect the people who were actually the foundation of their power. People were only used for their own personal gain. Bonebone began to think of a plan to teach the United Cities a lesson, and if necessary, even to destroy it. He swapped armor with dbone and gave him a warning. Even though dbone would stay in the back line and attack with his crossbow, there would be times when enemies could get close. dbone needed to be ready to fight in close combat. dbone headed to Howler Maze to train against the cute but deadly crabs. Softbone went to the Great Desert to train as well. Bonebone, still carrying the unconscious Sand Ninja Oni, went straight to the police station. There, he met the police chief and handed over Sand Ninja Oni. Using his smooth talk, Bonebone managed to deceive the police chief a little and quickly improved his relationship with the United Cities faction. Meanwhile, Softbone trained by fighting groups of skimmers. dbone trained his martial arts against the crabs in Howler Maze. When his injuries became too severe, dbone rested in one of the ruins scattered across Howler Maze. Softbone was tired from training and returned to follow Bonebone. At that moment, Bonebone was being blocked by a group of United Cities heroes. Just like before, they started throwing insults at him. Then, they launched an attack. Bonebone ran away, not because he was afraid, but to lure them toward the city guards. His goal was to make the United Cities heroes get a bounty placed on them by the United Cities themselves. The fight ended up involving manhunters who appeared from nowhere. It turned out the manhunters themselves were wanted by the United Cities. Bonebone quickly picked one up and carried him to the police station to hand him over to the police chief. His relationship with the United Cities was growing stronger, bringing him closer to forming an alliance. After capturing another bounty and delivering it to the police chief, Bonebone's relationship with the United Cities finally reached the level of alliance. In Howler Maze, dbone was still busy training his martial arts. He fell again and again, but each time he got back up. His persistence slowly increased his toughness. In Shobadai, Bonebone saw many newly captured slaves lying motionless in front of the city gate. He quickly picked them up and carried them to a spot far away from the slave hunters and slave traders. There, he broke the shackles that bound them and stored the shackles in his backpack. Each shackle weighed 20 kilograms, which helped Bonebone train his strength. At the same time in Howler Maze, while dbone was resting, he was suddenly attacked by a giant crab. He lost his left arm in an instant. There was no chance to fight back or run away. Bonebone fell. Softbone also faced misfortune. He was surrounded and overpowered by a group of starving vagrants. They were about to butcher him. Without wasting any time, Bonebone rushed to save Softbone, hoping he wasn't too late. When he arrived, Bonebone quickly picked up Softbone while dodging the vagrants' attacks and kept running to safety. Bonebone only stopped running once they reached the city gate. He treated Softbone's wounds there. Once Softbone's condition improved, Bonebone went back to collecting prisoner shackles. After gathering enough, Bonebone and Softbone headed to Howler Maze to regroup with Bonebone. On the way, they were suddenly blocked by a group of outlaw farmers. They fought back. Softbone had grown much stronger and managed to defeat several of them. Meanwhile, Bonebone woke up from being unconscious. He treated his wounds and slowly walked toward the ruins. Unfortunately, a giant crab spotted him and immediately attacked. As expected, Bonebone passed out again. Bonebone and Softbone stopped by Heft first and bought a house there. Inside, he built a general storage chest. He stored the backpack full of shackles and left some pieces of dried meat for Softbone. After that, Bonebone went to the robotics shop to buy a skeleton left arm for Bonebone. Luckily, the shop had one with masterwork quality. Bonebone bought it immediately and headed straight to Howler Maze. Bonebone had already reached the ruins. He went into one of them and laid out his sleeping bag. Bonebone was resting for a while. Bonebone woke Bonebone up and gave him the skeleton arm. Bonebone quickly attached the new arm and continued resting. Bonebone borrowed Bonebone's armor and did some light training against the crabs nearby.